Good afternoon. I'm Tanika Harris, the Director of Communication and Community Relations for the Urban Redevelopment Authority of Pittsburgh. I'm grateful to be able to have this moment with you to present a lot of great projects that are underway. Today is the start of our regular board meeting, which is May 11th, 2023. Chairman Chintalopoli, I want to pass it over to you. You do have a quorum. Please feel free to move forward.
Thank you, Director Harris. Thank you all for joining us today. Our first order of business is roll call. Present and accounted for, we have Councilman Lavelle, Representative Innamorato, and Director Lindsay Powell. I know Director Sam Williamson will be joining us later, and we'll make sure the record reflects that when he does. Our first order of business for today will be the approval of our April 13th, 2023 regular URA board meeting minutes. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Great, the motion carries. Please also note that the board met in executive session on May 5th and 11th. Those were for briefing purposes only, for the purposes of today's agenda, and they were only informational. Moving on, first into public comment, and Daniel Grantham will be running that for us. Daniel?
Hi there, everyone. Our first public commenter is Ed Nusser. Ed, I believe I have, yep, you'll have 3 minutes, and I'll let you know when you've got about 10 seconds left.
Great, thanks, Dan.
Start whenever.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ed Nusser, Executive Director at City of Bridges Community Land Trust, and I'm here today to just speak quickly in support of the as amended guidelines for the FSDP for CLT program. First, I want to start by thanking leadership from the URA board and staff, as well as Mayor Gainey and City Council to authorize this new pool of funding. Especially thanks to the URA housing and lending staff, Evan and Victoria, who have been working on these guidelines. Launching new programs is never an easy lift, so I'm really thankful for the openness and the collaboration that URA staff has to make sure this program makes sense and is operable when it launches. Taking a one-time federal infusion from ARPA to seed community-controlled, permanently affordable homes is a massive, massive win for our city. We're incredibly excited to be a part of leveraging this once-in-a-lifetime federal investment to create homes for generations of low-income Pittsburghers. There's no doubt that Pittsburgh is witnessing unheard-of real estate growth. The median home in Pittsburgh has increased more than 25% since 2018, and we know incomes aren't keeping up. These new market pressures, which are occurring throughout our city and all 90 neighborhoods, coupled with exponential increases in construction costs, make increased public investment like this critical to ensure that our friends and neighbors will always have access to high quality, reliably affordable homes. Also, I think it's important to acknowledge, as a hopeful applicant for this pool, that we know the funding and timeline restrictions that come with ARPA dollars. As an entity that's been waiting for increased public investment, we believe that this new funding stream could position City of Bridges to move at least 43 homes in 7 different neighborhoods into construction in the next 18 months. Most excitingly, a portion of this pool could also support our ability to leverage and unlock a $16 million new markets tax credit project that would deliver over $1.5 million in tax credit equity into 29 of those planned 43 homes. We know that FSDP for CLT won't fill every gap on every project, nor should it, but having this additional source will support our work to garner additional gap subsidy from sources like the State Housing Trust Fund, Federal Home Loan Bank, and others. So in short, this is a much needed increase in investment to create access to affordable homes, and we're thankful for the leadership and partnership that's helped make this a reality.
Daniel, you're on mute if you're.
Oh, sorry about that.
All good.
Our next public commenter is Tammy Thompson. Tammy, you have the floor and your time begins whenever you start talking.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Tammy Thompson. I am the Executive Director of Catapult Greater Pittsburgh. And I wanted to take the opportunity today to welcome Kiana Wassler as the Chief Director of Housing at the URA. I know her. I've worked with her in our work when we were formerly Circles Greater Pittsburgh, and know her heart for the people in this community. And I'm excited that she is joining this team. I also want to take the opportunity to remind and make aware that we are operating with a dysfunctional housing authority that is negatively impacting the residents of this city. And I'm hoping that all who are listening, all of those in power who have the ability to utilize tools in their toolbox to implore the housing authority leadership to make changes swiftly as we have a city of residents who are suffering under the current leadership. So thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to seeing some changes very soon.
Thank you. Our next public commenter is Steve Mazza. Steve, was your public comment in relation to something other than the Lower Hill?
No, I could just comment on the Lower Hill today.
Okay, so we have a section at the end of, or later on for that, so we'll call you up then. That completes this round of public comment. We will have another round of public comment prior to the votes on Lower Hill blocking.
Thank you, Daniel. Moving on to announcements. Our first announcement is to welcome Kiana Wassler as our Chief Housing Officer, and joining us for this will be our Executive Director, Shushila Namani.
Good afternoon. As you all know, the URA is committed to enhancing the work within Pittsburgh's housing ecosystem. As such, I'm pleased to inform you that Kiana Wassler has rejoined the URA as Chief Housing Officer. She joined us on April 24th. Kiana previously worked for the URA, managing Main Street development and business and commercial real estate financing, and led the facade program for nearly 14 years. In her most recent role, Kiana served as Development Director with Beacon Communities and directed the advancement of multifamily LIHTC developments in the Northeast of assets worth more than $150 million. As the URA anticipates new initiatives, additional funding, and complex projects in the pipeline, Kiana will play an essential role in advancing affordable housing as a critical community need. As Chief Housing Officer, Kiana will complement Evan Miller's exceptional work as Director of Housing, and I just want to sincerely thank Evan and Kiana for their leadership and the entire URA Housing Department for their continued excellence. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. I would echo those comments as well as what Tammy Thompson noted in her public comment about being excited for Kiana to join the team, for everything she brings to the table, the housing expertise that she's developed in her most recent employment and professional background, but then everything that she brings to us from her knowledge of neighborhood and community and working in main streets and the way and the importance of how those things work together. And that blend of technical expertise and care is, what I'm proud of us building at the authority, and know that Kiana will bring that, exceptional blending of skill and care to the team and help to continue to foster that with our staff. So thank you for agreeing to come back, Kiana, and we're excited to have you.
Thank you, Director Chintalopoli, Sushila, and Tammy for your kind remarks. I'm both excited and grateful to rejoin the Urban Redevelopment Authority of Pittsburgh as Chief Housing Officer. Through my economic development work in the public and private sectors and affordable housing development experience, I've worked for over a decade to ensure our communities have access to programs and resources. Access to safe and affordable housing is a crucial need throughout Pittsburgh's neighborhoods. Additionally, the development of quality and affordable housing is a key opportunity to further advance equitable development practices throughout the city of Pittsburgh. I'm grateful for the opportunity to work alongside the URA's Board of Directors, executive leadership team, as well as the amazing residential and consumer lending staff in progressing this important work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do want the record to reflect that Director Williamson has joined us, so we have all board members present and accounted for. Moving on in announcements, Director Evan Miller is joining us to talk about the Housing Opportunity Fund.
Thank you, Chairman. First, just I want to welcome Kiana from speaking for the entire Housing Department staff. We are really excited to have her, her personality and her leadership. So thank you to the board and the leadership as well for supporting our work by bringing Kiana back. It's really appreciated. So, but with that, good afternoon. My name is Evan Miller. I am the Director of Housing here at the URA, and I'm here to announce that the Housing Opportunity Fund has launched its annual allocation plan community feedback survey. The survey opened on May 1st, and it will continue receiving feedback until July 31st. The Housing Opportunity Fund is the City of Pittsburgh's affordable housing trust fund. It's been in service since 2018, being administered by the URA in that time, and to date, it's provided $10 million per year to address some of Pittsburgh's most pressing affordable housing needs. In the survey, people have the opportunity to indicate what they believe are the most important affordable housing needs in the city today. The survey is critical because the feedback that we receive from the community determines what programs are going to exist in our next year's allocation and how that allocated funding is going to be divvied up among those programs. We've already received about 150 responses and are hopeful that we're going to get a lot more between now and when the survey ends at the end of July. There are several options for people who want to take the survey. We have a web link and a QR code where people could take the survey in English or in Spanish online. They could also call in to complete the survey over the phone, or they could call and email us to have a paper copy sent to where they live. The URA staff is also going to be out in the community at various public events over the next several months, promoting the survey and collecting responses there. The dates and locations for these events that the URA is going to be present at are going to be posted on the URA's website in our events section. So please share this information with your networks between now and July 31st. We want to ensure that the programming that we have here at the URA meets the needs of the community. You could repost the URA social media posts that our team is doing right now. We also have a social media toolkit for anyone who wants to create their own posts. So if you're interested in receiving a flyer about the survey or additional information to share with your community, or if you'd like us to attend one of the events in your community, please contact us at hof@ura.org. I really quickly just want to give a special shout out to Jad Burns from the Housing Department, John Bonello from the URA Strategic Data and Impact Team, and Dana Bohens from the URA's communication team. They've all been working really hard to make this year's survey our best one yet, and I think it will be. So I'm going to wrap it up there, but thank you, and the survey is open till the end of July.
Thanks, Director.
Yep.
Any questions or comments from the board? Great. Next on announcements is Avenues of Hope, American Rescue Plan Act Grant Application Round 2, and Talia O'Brien is joining us for this one.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to announce that our application round 1 for the Avenues of Hope American Rescue Plan Act grant program came to a close on April 30th, and review of those applications is currently underway with funding recommendations to be presented for approval at next month at the URA's June board meeting. Application round 2 for the grant program opened on May 1st and will close on June 30th, 2023. and applications can be submitted via email or through our Google Form application, with additional information being found on the URA's website. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I guess we're entering the Dylan Sloat portion of our. First is going to be the 2022 annual report, followed by the impact report for the first quarter. Dylan.
Thanks, Chairman. Good afternoon. My name is Dylan Sloat. I'm a legislative and systems specialist in the URA's Strategic Data and Impact Unit. The URA is excited to announce that our 2022 annual report is now live on our website. This report contains statistics from the URA's full year of impact from last calendar year. And just some high-level numbers from that report are that $12.7 million were invested in housing initiatives. 83% of that consumer housing support went to women and minority heads of household. Over $5.6 million were closed in business loans, 90% of which went to minority or women-owned businesses. And at the close of the year, $64 million were invested into the 56 active development projects you see on your screen. To review the entire report, please go to our website at ura.org and navigate to the Impact tab, and then you'll click on that and get to the Report tab underneath, and you'll find all of our annual reports, including this one. Next slide, please. I'll get to the Q1 impact report. So this report on your screen is for quarter one of 2023, which closed in March. So just some high-level statistics from this report, which is also now available on the website, is that 49 businesses were connected with technical assistance through the URA and its affiliates in the first quarter of 2023. 344 individuals were able to stay in their homes through housing crisis prevention or housing-related legal assistance programs provided by the Housing Opportunity Fund. 20 individuals were assisted in achieving homeownership through the HOF down payment and closing cost assistance program. 328 units of affordable housing were created or preserved with assistance through our residential and consumer lending programs. 20 small business loans were closed between the URA and its affiliates worth over $1.74 million. And roughly $360,000 were dispersed to businesses maintaining vacant lots or to support neighborhood projects through our NIF program. The full report is also live on our website, and I encourage anyone who's interested in reading further to go to ura.org and also click that Impact tab, but select URA Impact under that dropdown to see this report and our other quarterly reports from the past year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dylan. There's a lot here. It's all when we vote on the individual projects, we know the impacts they can make on community, and I think we sometimes lose sight of the overall kind of aggregate impact. So I appreciate you working with your colleagues to, pull this data together to illustrate that point. And Director Harris, you and your team for making it, look nice, so that we can all digest it easily. But I mean, it's really astounding just what's up here right now. 342, folks that we're helping with housing related legal assistance, the home ownership, that impact. I mean, on this and then the previous one, and the councilman mentions it a lot, in terms of the market holes that we're filling, right? And I think this not only shows the importance of the work that our team is doing every day, but the need and the candidly market opportunity, for us to either gather more resources or other people to enter into these spaces. So, yeah, thank you, for putting this together so that we're able to kind of take a step back and see it all, and the magnitude of the impact. But more importantly, thank you and thank the entire team for all the work you do to produce these numbers. So I don't know if any of the other board members have anything they'd like to say, but I did want to just take a moment to reflect on that.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. All right, thanks all.
Okay, moving on. We'll look over what we have on today's agenda. We're going to move first into residential lending and investments. Our first item is Avenues of Hope, Knoxville, 302 Zara Street. And joining us for this will be Ben Payne. You're on mute, Ben. I'm sorry.
There we go. Yep. All right.
Can you hear me?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members of the public and board members for having me today. I'm in front of you today to ask for authorization to enter into a housing preservation program loan in an amount of $850,000 with Spring Capital Partners LLC or a related entity for the acquisition of 302 Zara Street. I want to start off by first saying that this is the first project that would be funded through the URA's housing preservation program, which kicked off last month. HPP will help fund the acquisition, renovation, or operations of existing subsidized or naturally occurring affordable rental units located in the city. And the mission is to invest in these rental units before they go market rate. So we hope to keep them affordable for extended periods of time. In this project specifically, Spring Capital Partners is going to purchase 302 Zara Street, which is a 22-unit building, multifamily property in the Knoxville neighborhood. The plan is to complete 3 additional units in the building, so there'll be 25 units total in the building. And our agreement is that 100%, all 25 of those units will be made affordable at 50% of AMI or lower. When completed, there'll be a 1 1-bedroom, 17 2-bedrooms, and 7 3-bedrooms. The total development cost is estimated to be a little bit over $3 million at $3,980,143. Spring Capital Partners secured a $1,917,714 construction loan from Spring Garden Lending, and the borrower is also providing $347,429 in equity to round out the development costs. Most of the project financing is going to be going to acquisition. There will be a small portion left over, about $250,000, to fund a light renovation of existing units and some common spaces. This is about a 21,400 square foot property. It was built in 1911. It's gone through a couple rehabs recently in 2014 and 2020, which were rather substantial. They included replacing all the plumbing in the building, installation of new, more efficient water heaters and furnaces, and substantial roof repairs. Our partner here, Spring Capital Partners, is wholly owned by Mr. Jim Frito through Spring Capital Partners and its affiliated companies. Mr. Frito owns and operates 42 units of housing and manages another 36 units in the Pittsburgh and Allegheny County area. Mr. Frito also owns Spring Renovations LLC, who is the contractor on the project, and he also owns Spring Real Estate Management LLC, who is the property manager for this project. Like I said, this is the first project that we're going to be funding from the HPP program, and we're really excited to do this. And I think Mr. Frito should be on the line to say a couple quick words here about the project.
Yes, thanks, Ben. Hi, my name is Jim Frito. I want to thank the board for taking the time to consider this project. The goal here is to preserve these units. Something that wasn't mentioned was that the seller had another cash offer, and the person who was looking to buy this was going to displace all 22 families. So the goal here is to keep this affordable, plus add some additional units to the project. And I think Ben covered the gist of the project pretty well, but if you have any questions, I'm open to answering any questions you may have at this time.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you both. Any questions, comments from board members? We do have a couple questions here from folks in the chat, Ben or Mr. Frito. One related to if there's any plans to include disability accessibility retrofits with the units or for the entrance.
The property has a ramp leading up to the first floor, which gives access to, I believe it's 11 units. I'll have to double check the number, but I believe it's 11 units that could be accessed by a disabled person. There is no elevator, and there's not really plans or location to put an elevator, but there is some access on that first floor.
Okay. And the other question that came in was related to acceptance of housing choice vouchers, and whether you'd be accepting residents seeking to live in the units with voucher subsidy. I believe that's a requirement of the funding on the preservation loan program. Is that correct, Ben?
Yes, everything will be priced based on housing choice voucher, and those will certainly be accepted.
Great. I don't know if there's any other questions or comments, but I did, Ben mentioned it, but did want to just note, one, it's exciting to see preservation money already getting out. We knew there was going to be, demand on this just from what we knew about projects that are timing out from, deed restrictions that are on their properties, and, had a good sense of what the naturally occurring demand might look like. But the first project to come through, to be one in Knoxville, but then also a naturally occurring affordable project that we're now able to, put some investment in to, help this group acquire the property when it was at risk of flipping, and then ensure that now there's, restrictions on it going forward to protect and preserve that affordability. It's great to see, a plan come to life. So really appreciate, the development team for your efforts on this, and, our team, Ben, and you, all your work, and everyone else behind the scenes for bringing this to us. So if there aren't any other questions, I will entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you all. Congratulations.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the for sale development program for community land trusts guidelines. And joining us for this will be Director Miller.
Thanks, Chairman. Good afternoon again, Evan Miller with the Housing Department. For this item today, I'm seeking the board's approval of the guidelines for the for sale development program for community land trusts funded by the American Rescue Plan. Last month, draft guidelines were presented to the board by my colleague, Victoria Jackson, who couldn't be here today. But over the last several weeks, we've received public comment that's been incorporated into the guidelines that are now before the board for approval today. A quick refresher, the purpose of this program is to provide construction financing to community land trusts for the rehabilitation or new construction of affordable for sale housing within the city of Pittsburgh. Units that get awarded this funding will be sold to households at or below 80% of the area median income. They'll be part of land trusts, and they'll carry a 99-year affordability deed restriction, ensuring that future sales are also made to buyers at or below 80% AMI. So at this time, the financing through this program, we've got $5 million scheduled to come to the URA through the city through their ARPA funding. It's slated to be a grant program that allows up to $100,000 per rehab unit and $130,000 per newly constructed unit. The per unit maximums are an increase over what we currently offer. And this is meant to better capture the increased costs that affordable housing developers are facing in light of rising construction costs and higher interest rates as well. Additionally, this program is going to permit community land trusts to use a rent to own model if necessary. And that entails that CLTs can rent the unit to a potential buyer until the tenant is prepared for a home purchase, and to get them ready for that. I want to thank our community partners that have provided comments over the last several weeks to better suit this program to serve its purpose. Some of those changes that have been incorporated into the draft guidelines that are now final guidelines to be approved today are more accurately defining the definition of community land trusts, allowing for additional flexibility in the resale formula that the land trust can apply, and providing more detail on eligible costs. The URA also received some really valuable input on how to apply fair housing principles to the program as we get it up and running, including ensuring that participating CLTs receive training on the Fair Housing Act, that their applications for funding provide detail on what the CLT's reasonable accommodation and modification policies are, as well as some really important data points to consider when underwriting a rent-to-own model, as that is something new to the URA. We want to incorporate those principles as well of fair housing as we embark down that road too. So those are some of the changes that were put into last month's draft guidelines. Once we have an approved set of guidelines, an application for funding is going to be announced when the URA has a subrecipient agreement executed with the city. I would hope that would be in the next month or two here, and we can launch the program at that point. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and thanks for the consideration today.
Thanks, Director. Any questions, comments for the board?
One from me, Director Miller, could you remind me and the public how long the deed restrictions are for? I think that's a important piece to add, daylight.
It's permanent affordability. So 99 years is how it can be expressed in any type of ground lease or deed restriction.
I just think that's a really important point to highlight in terms of making sure that the public and those watching know that these are intended to be long-term affordable, lifetime affordable, and appreciate you again daylighting that piece of information.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Director. Director Miller, you and your team, Victoria, who've worked on this, thank you for everything, that you do. It was noted in public comment. It's not easy to stand up a new program. So, for you all to be able to do this as we're rolling out a number of other things with, the ARPA money that's coming in, really sincerely appreciate your efforts on that, as well as the public who did provide comment so that we could improve, what was a great base that you all laid, and, appreciate you kind of thoughtfully incorporating the feedback that we did receive to just improve this, and know that we'll continue to learn, right, as we launch this. So excited to see it move forward, and as it goes live here, as you said, over the next month or so. So if there aren't any other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve the guidelines.
So move.
Do a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you, Director.
Yeah, thank you.
Next on the agenda, we have in the Central Business District, the Triangle Building renovation. And joining us for this will be David DiBernardo.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is David DiBernardo. I am a lending analyst in the Residential Lending Department of the URA. I am here today seeking approval for a $300,000 Pittsburgh Downtown Conversion Program loan for the renovation of the Triangle Building in the form of a 40-year 0% interest cash flow loan. The Triangle Building will be the first to use the new URA Pittsburgh Downtown Conversion Program. Because of this, please allow me to provide some background on the program. Pittsburgh Downtown Conversion Program uses Pennsylvania American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, funds to provide subordinate loans to projects that convert underutilized or vacant office space into affordable residential units in the downtown neighborhood of Pittsburgh. Affordable for this program is defined as households earning below 80% of area median income. In this particular development that we're discussing today, the affordable residential units will be rented to households earning 50% of AMI or less. The principals and owners of Hewlett Development Triangle LP are Brett Walsh and his wife, Brianna Tyson. Brett has worked for leading Canadian real estate developer and operator based in Vancouver for over a decade, which involves sourcing new real estate development opportunities and structuring project financing. Brianna has 10 years of experience in real estate development, including managing construction of residential high rises. Hewlett Properties LLC has successfully developed and operates 2554 Smallman, which is in the Strip District, and it's a 27-unit residential condominium that also contains street-level retail space. The Triangle Building is a 6-story red brick triangle-shaped historic building sitting between Liberty Avenue, Smithfield Street, and 7th Avenue in the heart of downtown Pittsburgh. This building was originally built in 1866, then enlarged in 1884. It consisted of 5 floors of office space with retail businesses on the street level first floor. After years of neglect, this building has fallen into disrepair and became completely vacant. This project will restore this historic triangle building to its former glory while meeting the current needs of Pittsburgh residents by providing a small neighborhood grocer and cafe. On the 5 floors above, there will be 15 apartment units. 3 of these units will be 1-bedroom units affordable to families earning at or below 50% of area median income. The remaining units will be rented at market rate and will include 2 1-bedroom units, 9 2-bedroom units, and a 4-bedroom unit, which will be rented out by a tenant who seeks to have a premium live-work space in downtown Pittsburgh. Because of the rarity of a 4-bedroom unit in downtown Pittsburgh, this unit will demand a premium, which will help make this project financially feasible and allow for other units to be rented affordably. The $13.25 million capital stack for this project consists of $5.25 million construction loan from NextTier, $4.38 million in equity from Hewlett Properties LLC, $2.61 million in historic tax credits and new market tax credits, $500,000 URA Pittsburgh Business Fund subordinate construction loan. This $300,000 Pittsburgh Downtown Conversion Program loan, $225,000 Enterprise Zone tax credit, and a $90,000 Pittsburgh to Paris facade grant. The renovation of this building began in September of 2022 and is projected to be completed in December of 2023. The reason for this loan request today is to help cover some of that $825,000 of cost overruns, which are largely attributable to the water and fire damage being more extensive than initially assessed. The sewer and stormwater infrastructure are corroded, and a water line bursts inside the building, causing extensive damage and mold. That said, because this project is currently halfway completed, this Pittsburgh Downtown Conversion Program loan will have a near immediate impact, providing affordable housing in the heart of downtown Pittsburgh by early 2024. This project will also serve as an example of a Pittsburgh Downtown Conversion project success and serve as a model for transforming former office space into quality, affordable apartments in this city. To recap, I am here today seeking approval for a $300,000 Pittsburgh Downtown Conversion Program loan for the renovation of the Triangle Building in the form of a 40-year, 0% interest cash flow loan. I would now like to introduce the developers, Brett Walsh and Brianna Tyson, who would like to make a statement to the project or to the board of their project. Thank you.
Thanks very much, David. Yes, as the first project going through this particular program, the Pittsburgh Downtown Conversion Plan, I'd like to thank all those involved in getting this program launched. I think it's a very important program, and with scale, it will be very impactful in the downtown core, particularly for small floor plate historic buildings like the Triangle Building, who face economic challenges for conversion to bring these buildings up to code for residential use. And so I think that this is a really great addition to what the URA is doing. And so I'd like to thank the URA and the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership and City Council and the Mayor's Office and all those involved in getting this program launched. This is a building that, as David has described, is going to bring more residential units to the downtown core, which we're very happy that we're able to contribute to the population growth, the residential population growth of downtown, and also provide affordable units to the Golden Triangle. And we think, just as importantly, bringing high quality retail to the base of the building, which is currently something that the downtown is struggling with, and that we want to bring and are in discussions with groups that we think will make this block, as the building sits on its own block, a terrific hub for all residents in that local area.
And I just want to say that the first time I came to Pittsburgh back in 2017, I walked past the Triangle building and I fell in love with it. And it's probably much the reason why I founded Hewlett Properties and why we have headquartered the company here in Pittsburgh. I'm passionate about, all projects that we work on, redevelop or new construction, but Triangle does have many challenges. However, I know the impact of this project it's going to be significant, and I'm very proud of the work that we're doing to bring this building back to life for the people that will be moving in and also just the community. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you both. Thank you, David. Any questions from the board, comments?
I don't have not a question, but more a comment. I just want to thank the staff and thank the developer for making this first project under this program happen. It's really exciting. I mean, the health and success of downtown Pittsburgh really depends urgently on our continuing to convert underutilized buildings like this to other uses, to more productive uses. And being able to make sure that there are affordable units included in them so that downtown Pittsburgh can be a place that everyone can afford to live, including the majority of workers who work in downtown Pittsburgh and take care of its buildings or work in its hospitality industry. So I'm excited to see this moving forward, and I would encourage others in the city to do the same and to take advantage of this program and help us grow it and help us improve it.
I would want to second what Director Williamson said. I just wanted to raise very quickly, one, the question in the Q&A about housing choice vouchers, but then my own question, if you could talk, I'm sure everything is just in the beginning stages of these conversations playing out, but a little bit more about the grocery store. As we all know, that's a massive need that the downtown community and those commuting through downtown have. So if you could talk a little bit more about your vision for the ground floor cafe and grocery store, I would appreciate it.
Sure. The retail space. In fact, we have one retailer who has already agreed to take some space, and that is a flower shop. Their current location is on East Ohio Street. They're called the Farmer's Daughter, and they're going to be taking a small space. And we're currently in discussions with a group who will take the rest of the space. And that will include a grocery element, and prepared foods, restaurant, and cafe.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
With respect to the housing vouchers, if that was also a question, we will be accepting that on those affordable units, the 20% of the building or number of units that are mandated as affordable.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I do just want to really quickly chime in on the vouchers. We did hear some overarching concerns about the Housing Authority at the start of this meeting in one of the comments, but I will say that the tiered payment system that is been rolled out has made this project really possible to deliver affordable units. When we worked with Brett to figure out how we might be able to close the gap on this project and get some affordable units into the building, it really only works if there is a strong competitive voucher payment involved to kind of buoy those affordable units. So that's a really critical part of this project. And just one other very small detail, adding on to David, talking about the program, we are using PA, DCED, Department of Community and Economic Development dollars for this project, but we do have funds from the city as well through their ARPA allocation too, that will go out into future projects. This project was just well suited for that state money that we have. So I want to make sure that that's daylit, that we have received support from the city on this as well, considerable support.
Thanks, Director. Yeah, I would echo what Director Williamson said in terms of, exciting to see this moving forward, the importance of this, and hopeful that we'll be able to invest in other, buildings and their conversion and preservation downtown soon, as we continue to roll out this program. Thank you to the state and Senators Costa and Fontana in particular for helping us secure the additional resources for this, as well as Representative Morato and the rest of our House delegation to bring this forth. And yeah, I don't know that I have anything further unless anyone else does. We'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Do we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on in the agenda to development services. The first is related to the Hill District and our Bedford Dwellings Phase 1. Joining us for this will be Nicholas Person.
Thank you, Chairman. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicholas Person. I'm a lending analyst in the Residential Lending Department of the URA. And today I am requesting that the board accept the proposal in form of contract for the sale of the following 28 lots located on Reed, Roberts, Miller, Heldman, and Colwell Streets in the Pittsburgh's 3rd Ward to Reed Roberts Limited LP or a related entity for $253,880 plus costs. Next slide, please. This site assemblage will be the location for the first phase of new housing constructed for the Bedford Choice Neighborhoods Initiative in the Hill District. The site is currently vacant land that is owned by multiple different parties, including the URA, the City of Pittsburgh, and Trek Development Incorporated. This project will be a team development effort between the Housing Authority of the City of Pittsburgh and the seasoned housing developer Trek Development Incorporated. Together, the team will be utilizing 4% and 9% low-income housing tax credits, as well as Community Development Block Grant and Allies and Ross Management and Development Corporation dollars to fund the endeavor. They will also utilize Choice Neighborhoods funding should Bedford Choice be awarded the grant. The total development cost will be $62,530,879. In terms of affordability, this will be a mixed income residential development with 123 units. 99 of the units will be rented at 30 to 60% of area median income, and 24 units will be market rate. 90 of the affordable units will hold project-based vouchers and will be 1-for-1 replacement units for Bedford dwellings, which will be demolished and rebuilt as the main component of the Choice Neighborhoods Initiative. This phase of the development will be completed regardless of whether Pittsburgh is awarded the Choice Implementation Grant or not. The development team is aiming for a closing for Bedford Dwellings Phase 1 at the end of the summer. If the board accepts this proposal, the project will once again come in front of the board for approval of final drawings, evidence of financing, and authorization to execute the deed prior to sale. And that is my presentation. Thank you for your time. I have myself, as well as Addie Cullen and John Gnocchi of Trek Development to help in answering any questions.
Thanks, Nicholas. John or Addie, and I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to add to Nicholas' presentation.
Yeah, hi, this is John Gnocchi. Just to say that this is obviously a very complex, expensive, and a very important project in the Hill District. And obviously we couldn't do this without the support of the URA and the city. I want to thank you all for considering our project.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Nicholas. Any other questions, comments from the board?
Just a quick comment. it was mentioned, but it's just worth highlighting again that we are indeed going after a choice neighborhood grant, $50 million, hopefully, that we will get rewarded to redevelop all of Bedford dwellings. But in Nicholas's presentation, he mentioned that this is going to happen regardless of that funding, which is really critical because it demonstrates the administration's commitment to new affordable housing in this community and for better housing options for residents of our community. So this is really exciting. It's also important to note where it's being located, which is directly behind or near where Salim's Market will hopefully be opening in the near future. So you're bringing residents directly to have direct food access opportunities, as well as it's directly close to transportation. It'll be right by Center Avenue, which will help support all the other businesses that we're trying to redevelop on Center. So this is really critical and exciting. So I just want to thank everyone involved with it.
Thank you, Councilman. You took the words right out of my mouth in terms of the site, the importance, and following on to the projects that we saw last month, both with the grocery store as well as the exciting progress that Astaire shared with us on a number of our Center Avenue developments that are moving along. And to what Nicholas shared, the 1-for-1 replacement, this is offsite, so it's going to allow us to offer the opportunity for residents to only move once, in addition to our commitment to ensuring that we are providing 1-for-1 replacement for all the public housing units. And then, if we are successful, or I should say, hopefully when we are successful in securing the Choice Neighborhoods grant, increasing the number of affordable units throughout the Hill, which are just important to stabilizing the community as we go forward here. So if there aren't any other questions or comments, want to thank the development team, thank Nicholas for bringing us forth with today. I'm excited to see it move forward, and we'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Same.
The motion carries. Thank you all.
Thank you.
We're going to, as Nicholas said earlier, move into Lower Hill public, or excuse me, Daniel said earlier, move into Lower Hill public comment before the Lower Hill agenda item. I know there's also a number of questions related to the Lower Hill that have been put in the chat. So, we will be able to address those, I think, both through the presentation as well as through discussion with the board. So moving into public comment, then I will turn things over to Daniel Grantham and Director Harris.
Hi. So Chairman Chantalopoulos and other board members, we do have a series of written public comment as well as live comment. So I'm going to provide the written comments first, and then we'll give opportunity for the live comments next, unless you would like it in a different order. Is that okay? Okay, so the first written comment we have is from Bonnie Young Lane. And what she states is, do not put monies from the $2 per car into the Greater Hill Reinvestment Fund or in any other CSIP related fund. Current Hill LRTA funds are not being distributed to community projects. The Hill CDC, which chairs the fund, has been the only beneficiary, and there is no transparency or public input process. Meanwhile, important projects like the Hams Barbershop restoration are underfunded. Also, important community buildings such as the Northside Lodge of the Elks are being demolished. Place funds with a publicly accountable entity with transparent community-driven application process. The next written comment is from Tanya Ford. Do not put monies from the $2 per car into the Greater Hill Reinvestment Fund. Place funds with a publicly accountable entity with transparent community-driven application process. More community input is needed. The next public comment is from Reverend Dr. Martin J. Raffanan. And I'm going to take the liberty to provide some highlights to this. This is a very extensive written comment. My wife and I have felt welcomed and engaged in the neighborhood, and feel privileged to be a part of a neighborhood with a powerful history of accomplishment and resistance to forces of oppression, especially from the city of Pittsburgh itself and its economic entities and authorities. I am currently a member of the Crawford Square Housing Association, the Hill District Consensus Group, the Hill District Community Development Corporation, and the Hill District Ministerial Alliance. I volunteer at Sunny's Community Garden, take classes at the Hill CEC, and am involved in efforts to seek reparations for Bethel AME through my home congregation, which is St. Andrew Lutheran Church in Shadyside. I also organize the annual Martin Luther King Jr. commemoration service. I believe that it is my responsibility to be actively engaged in my neighborhood and to be politically engaged to ensure that our elected leaders support working families, protect the environment, and support the most vulnerable through affordable housing and equity building programming. The development of the Lower Hill remains a critical and central process for ensuring that the City of Pittsburgh, the URA, and the SEA stay focused on righting the historic wrongs committed to the Hill District 75 years ago. Although I do not always agree with the specific directions of the Hill District CDC, I am aware of its embeddedness in the neighborhood, its historic engagement of community residents, and its fair and equitable process of educating and decision-making that include all in the community. A cursory look at its website, a look at its history and accomplishments, and a visit to its offices demonstrates that it is the real infrastructure for community engagement and decision-making, reflecting the community sentiments in the Hill District. Relative to the work on Block E in the Lower Hill, I support the Hill District CDC's assessment of what is required of the developer, those who have the right to develop, and those who currently hold title to the land. On March 9th, 2023, the Lower Hill Development Team presented at the URA non-voting board meeting to provide updates on Block E as required for the final transfer of Block E from the URA and SEA to the PENS and BPG. The land is expected to be sold to the PENS and BPG for $10 per parcel. The October 2019 amended term sheet and other agreements for Block E obligate the Lower Hill Development Team to fulfill the following public and community benefits. Number 1, public safety rescue station. 2, URA/Catapult retail incubator space. 3, New Granada support and coordination. 4, capitalization of the local economic revitalization tax assistance, also known as the LRTA. 5, parking tax diversion. 6, curtain call funding. 7, admin upgrades. 8, first source center. 9, other commitments. No transfer of land should occur without the above agreements being completed to the satisfaction of the Hill District CDC and the developer going through the community's stated process for assessing development, which is the Development Review Panel, also known as the DRP, prior to a final community vote on the project. I agree with the Hill CDC that as much as the community welcomes new development, it should not be at the cost of what is in the best interest of the Hill District neighborhood. We expect the city and the agencies addressing these concerns to stand with our neighborhood and demand that those who seek to develop the land fulfill their promised obligations. We also have a written comment from Shelley Lewis. I need to put my readers on, excuse me.
Do what you got to do, Director. It's all good.
It's real. This is real. This is live. I would like to see small business owners who live and reside in the Hill District for more than 5 years and been in business for at least 5 years to be the first ones considered for any and all of these contracts and not allow others to come and take over our jobs based on who they know. I have a cleaning company and would love to have the opportunity to get a contract for these buildings once they are up and running. I'm asking for a small part of the finished projects. Stop outsourcing to outsiders. Give me an opportunity. Thanks. The next written comment is from Christian Robinson. This letter is to all the residents of the Hill District from Chris of KI Heavy Construction. KI Heavy Construction feels the redevelopment plans for the Hill District should move forward. KI Construction feels that these projects would help the community prosper in many ways. These plans would help develop affordable housing for the community. The plans also call for a state-of-the-art music venue that people can come and take advantage of. This could become somewhere people in the community can go to and enjoy their atmosphere. This 28-acre project could bring many jobs to the Hill District to promote generational wealth for families. These plans can help change lives for the people of the Hill District. KI Heavy Construction is excited for the possibilities that can happen for the Hill District. These projects would make more people desire to be a part of more projects moving forward. Thank you. The last written comment is from Dana Zenman, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Dear Urban Redevelopment Authority, as a resident of the Hill District, I'm excited to bear witness to the exciting plans the Lower Hill redevelopment has for the community. My personal experience with the Lower Hill redevelopment team is one of true transparency, keeping the community informed via newsletters and public meetings, and a genuine care, concern, love, and well-being of the whole community. As a transformation of the historic Hill District takes shape, the team has worked tirelessly so no Hill District resident is left behind and also thrives. Engaging the community to have input and buy-in in the transformation of the Lower Hill, addition to offering resources and access to jobs and business opportunities through the First Source Center. This plan brings together community and vibrancy. I support the Lower Hill development team. I hope you will too. Sincerely, Dana Zenman, a Hill District resident. Chairman Chintalapalli will now move towards the live public comment. And Daniel, please assist me here. The first person we have is Renee Wilson. Ms. Renee, if you are here, I'm checking now. Ms. Renee, I see you are here. We are asking that you speak for 3 minutes. We will have to let you know when your time is coming close. And so I will gently remind you while you're speaking. So please do not take offense. But the floor is yours, Ms. Renee. Ms. Renee, you are unmuted, but if you're speaking, we're not able to hear you. So Ms. Renee, we're going to jump to the next person and we'll keep you on and come back to you. Chairman Chintalapalli and board members, we have Ms. Phyllis Gafour, who would like to provide a live public comment as well. Give us a second while we elevate her. Ms. Phyllis, I see you are on. I'm asking you to unmute. You too have 3 minutes, and I will gently remind you when you become close to your time. You have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman, for this opportunity to speak once again. I have looked over each and every board meeting and listened to the different views on Block E, Block G, Block G1. I've been involved in the Hill community most of my life. I received a planning degree in 1983 and a master's of business administration in 1983 and 2009 for my MBA. And I have 5 points I want to say. I don't want to, wear all of this out. But the first point is, according to the CDC, and the young lady before outlined the different areas that the CDC felt were not addressed, from the New Granada joint plans with Live Nation to curtain call funding to the $2 surcharge in the parking tax diversion, where that is going to and how it's going to be administered. The second that I read and I heard at the last meeting, non-voting meeting, subdividing parts of Block E was said to alleviate steep conditions. And that was what the developers were concerned about. Now it's said to allow Live Nation and the owner Boston Fenway Group to market the venue, which means there would be no more involvement from PAR or BPG. And I can't make a judgment one way or the other because this is going on and on and on. The third is putting the parking tax diversion in a fund monitored by the URA and not to the Greater Hill Development Fund. The fourth is the last presentation to the URA board by PPG, by the owner, was clear and succinct. There was little to provide contention. And my fifth point is I could only approve this one, and I'm anxious to 100% approve it because we need development right now. This complicated arrangement with Block E will only invite more controversy and seem to undermine community involvement and who profits from it. And lastly, I am sure that URA, excuse me, the current administration can sit down and broker a settlement based on what has already been proposed. We lost a landmark in the middle.
You have 30 seconds.
We lost a landmark in the Middle Hill called the Northside Elks. In the Upper Hill, the Robert Williams Park has been delayed and delayed and delayed. And I'm sure there are other communities that would want to have this kind of choice, this kind of money. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Phyllis. Daniel, do you see Ms. Renee Wilson? Has she returned? I want to give her an opportunity to speak as well, as she was listed here. Okay, I see she's back. Ms. Renee, I'm going to ask you to unmute and also know that you have 3 minutes. I will gently remind you when you get very close to your time.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Renee Wilson. I'm a resident on the Hill, and my family is long-term residents on the Hill. My thing here is that the Hill District had a plan that could have been flawless if it was followed by everybody respecting the rights of the community and going about the community, that agreement that was done by the community. Because that didn't happen in Block G, that's why we're here like this for Block E. In order to fix this, it's a very simple, it's not complex. It is people having respect for our community. I hear people talking about the $2 charge and where it's going. That has never even been said or even brought up. I do believe that the African American community is capable of handling their own money and doing right by the community. The Hill CDC's record speaks for itself. It speaks for itself. If people want to get over this, and the reason why we're here, there's other things that we could be doing out in our community. The reason why we are here is this is very important. The Hill District is the only community in Pittsburgh to have a community benefits agreement that is giving them more teeth in development in the community. And for me, we need development, but we need community, and community starts with people. And if a developer wants to come in partnership with us, if in our community, they need to come to the table with respect for us, because you can't do any protection or doing with people you need to do for a person, for people, if you don't respect them first. This starts with respect. This has caused a great rift in the moral fabric of our community. And when you do things like that, we have to address them. We can get back on the right plate if we come to the table and actually just respect each other and live up to the community agreements. They are not hard. They're not asking for more than what they should. And that should be done. We shouldn't be having all these meetings, and thank you. And I'm finished.
Thank you, Ms. Renee. Next we have, and please accept my apology if I pronounce your name wrong, Danielle Northern. I'm going to ask you to unmute, and also you have 3 minutes to speak. I will gently nudge you when your time comes close.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Danielle Northern, and I'm the concierge for the First Source Center under the leadership of Dr. Kimberly Ellis and under the management of the Cameron Group. The First Source Center is a workforce development program for job seekers, a support system for entrepreneurs, and a focus area for contractors, construction, and construction trainees. Just yesterday, we held a very successful career and union job fair at the Energy Innovation Center in partnership with Lance Harrell of the Master Builders Association and the First Source Center with Dr. Kimberly Ellis of the Buccini and Poling Group. With over 50 employers and over 250 registrants and participants, folks were rolling in and still reaching out about the actual event yesterday. Basically, we were pleased with the turnout from students, adults, contractors, corporate employers such as First National Bank and the Pittsburgh Penguins, government entities such as the URA, Housing Authority of Pittsburgh, resources including Literacy Pittsburgh and Reentry, along with representatives from most of the union trades and construction training programs. We received word at the end of the day that one person was hired on the spot, and we were very happy about that. We know we're a part of the solution to solving the workforce development challenges seen across the city and region. Can you, if you have any questions, please call us or text us at the First Source Center, which is 412-228-7890. And you can follow us online at lowerhillredevelopment.com/First Source Center. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Danielle. And now I know how to pronounce your name. I will not make that mistake again. Our last live public comment is Ms. Marimba Malines. I see that you're unmuted. I'm going to provide you with the same information that you will have 3 minutes. I will gently come to you when your time is coming closer. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Harris. My name is Marimba Malines. Greetings to the Board of Directors for the URA. I'm here to provide an update to the community on the 10-point plan and specifically the outstanding issues that the Hill CDC presented and has been presenting to our elected officials and the Hill District community over the past several weeks and months. Over the past 48 hours in particular, the Hill CDC has been in negotiations with city elected officials, leadership of the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Buccini Polling Group to reach tentative agreement on some of the key community commitments as outlined in the 2019 Block E term sheet, which I should remind everyone that the Hill District stakeholders, Northern Hill CDC specifically, negotiated those initial terms, but we are, as is generally the case, committed to ensuring that all of the benefits that we can give for the community and that have been publicly stated are returned. So with that, I'd like to just give an update, not just for the benefit of the board, but also to our constituents and stakeholders who may not be aware, as this is, late breaking information. So our expectation today, based on our negotiations with city officials, the URA and stakeholders, is that the city is comfortable with the development relative to the public safety rescue station, that the developer is going to fulfill the Black Business Incubator on Block E on the Wiley Avenue side of the building. As obviously for New Granada support and coordination, I'm intimately familiar with that. And the commitments have been made by the developer and commitments have been made by the city to ensure support to advance that development, critical funding support, as well as coordination, programmatic coordination. The upfront capitalization, which was to pay the capitalization upfront, was not fully met. The city, however, did agree with the developer to accept those payments over 3 years based on current interest rates. That was a challenge. The curtain call process and funding, we were able to reach agreement that instead of the developer moving forward on a final land development plan as they currently were, for the move of the curtain call, that they would engage the community with the Hill CDC this summer and have a public meeting such that the community could provide input. Hundreds of residents participated in the creation of that sustainability and public art project, which was located and is envisioned to be in front of PPG Paints Arena. The Penguins are proposing that it be moved to Wiley and Crawford. We advocated for public transparency on that decision, and there will be a meeting later this summer to engage the community on that. Equally important is the commitment for funding is going to be necessary prior to the advancement of that project. I am going to challenge the URA Board of Directors to tighten the commitment on that language, because they are technically supposed to deliver that capital now. It is supposed to be delivered right now as a part of the final takedown agreement. So we are asking that that you all ensure that capital comes into that project. That's probably the longest. Time check, Tanika?
Yes, you have 30 seconds. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna go as quickly as I can. I appreciate any grace. The Ammon Youth Recreation Center upgrades, it's my understanding that prior to financial closing, $400,000 will be paid upfront, and a balance of $450,000 will come over the next 24 months. And I think that that's really important because we know that the youth of the Hill District need all of the investment that they can possibly get. And that's a commitment that was made in 2019. There's been a commitment for first source hiring and training for jobs at the new Live Nation entertainment venue. I'm going to challenge the URA to ensure that those are also management opportunities that come available within the Live Nation organization. The $2 per ticket surcharge, which the Hill CDC advocated for on the tickets. There is no $2 parking surcharge. There's a $2 ticket surcharge. And the Hill CDC, stepped out several months ago to advocate for that, and fortunately secured that commitment over a 10-year period. We do want to revisit that 10-year period, and we also do want to revisit the $2 per parking space charge. But as of now, the $2 per ticket surcharge has been met. Now, the things that haven't been, I'm sorry, but this is very important. The development team did not complete the development review panel process. They have committed in public forums to complete the development review panel process. They started the process, the project changed. They were asked to resubmit, they refused to resubmit, so they never completed that. And what that does is it signals to the community that its voice and its values are not appreciated, and it really upsets the development process. So I'm asking the URA today to ensure that all future development completes the development review panel process before they come to you. And last but certainly not least is we want to remind you that because we are putting such an extraordinary amount of public tax money into this project, that we must ensure equitable development when it comes to parking tax diversions and LRTA funds and those types of things. There needs to be a more equitable split. On the parking tax diversion in particular, we know that that's a 75-25 split. We asked for 50-50. We understand that there may not be the tolerance for that by the city at this stage, but we do charge the city and the URA with ensuring that future tax investments are more equitable. With that, I would like to thank the elected officials, the Gainey administration, Councilman Lavelle, most importantly, the residents of the Hill District community to stay engaged. I want to charge you and thank you for being engaged, and I want to charge you with staying engaged over the next 60 days, because now we've got some contracts to get signed over the next 60 days prior to financial closing. And with that, thank you very much for your grace.
Thank you, Ms. Malines. Chairman Chintalapoli, that ends our public comment section. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be moving now into the presentation. Joining us for this will be our Chief Development Officer, Tom Link, and Executive Director, Sushila Singer.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you to our board. Thank you to the public, and thank you, Sushila, our Executive Director. I'm honored to present this the presentation here in anticipation of a vote on this action. Again, I'm Tom Link. I'm the Chief Development Officer here at the URA. So what are we talking about? This is an action that relates to the final vote to approve the Block E takedown in the Lower Hill District. Block E, of course, is the entertainment venue and parking garage development that has been talked about. To step back for a second, I'd like to just kind of orient to the site for the public's benefit. So Block E is about a 2.56 acre site bounded by Bedford Avenue to the north, Fullerton Street to the east, Wiley Avenue to the south, and Logan Street to the west. Just as a reminder, Block E is a property owned by the Sports and Exhibition Authority of Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. Just as a practical matter for those of us who drive past this a lot and walk through this, Block E is the site essentially directly to the east of Block G, which of course is the F&B Tower site. The program we're talking about here, twofold, parking garage and entertainment venue. First, I'll start with the parking garage. The parking garage is about a 6-story above ground parking garage with street level commercial space. And it's proposed to include a public safety facility as well as additional commercial space. It's about 320,000 square feet, about 910 parking spaces is proposed for the program for the parking garage facility. The entertainment venue, about an 80,000 square foot facility, 4,500 seating capacity, which includes a ballroom, 7,600 square feet of commercial space, including, which I think is important, which was been talked about, the URA retail incubator space, which is on the Wiley Avenue side of the site. Total cost for this project is about $110 million. This is a large deal, large project that we're talking about here today. If it's okay, I'm going to read just for a minute from the director's report, which of course everyone has access to, but I think it's important to kind of read into the public kind of how we're here and the authorizations that are being considered here by the board today. The Pittsburgh Arena Real Estate Development LP, acronym PAR, and the Parking Partners 2X 3 Big I Block E LLC, Parking Partners 23 Roman numerals, redeveloper and affiliate of PAR, and the Buccini Poland Group Inc., acronym BPG, have submitted a takedown notice for the takedown of Track 7, also known as Block E, which is Block 2C, Lot 406, as I just previously described. Pursuant to the June 20th, 2018, amended and restated comprehensive option agreement by and between PAR, the SCA, the URA, otherwise known as the option agreement, the SCA and the URA boards, which is why we're here today, must give final approval prior to a takedown of any property comprising of the Lower Hill site. As a reminder, at the URA's October 2019 special board meeting, the URA board preliminarily approved the Lower Hill Developer LLC or an affiliated entity as the redeveloper for Block E and the conceptual development plan for Block E. Just as a reminder, the URA board and the public were briefed on this project at its November 10th, 2022 board meeting and on March 9th, 2023. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. You can go to, sorry, can you go back to the previous slide? I think it's important to stay here for a second. So it's important to note the option agreement did not contemplate a subdivision of the site, which is what we're talking about here today. So as was presented on March 9th by the development team, the proposal here is for the takedown of Block E to perform certain pre-development work, including site preparation, construction, and a common foundation across the entirety of Block E for the development of both the parking garage and the entertainment venue. At a later date, the intention is to subdivide Block E, as you can see here in the graphic, into what we're going to call Block E and Block E2 into two separate development parcels, Block E1 being the parking garage and Block E2 being the entertainment venue. This parking garage developer will subsequently ground lease to the entertainment venue developer, which, to be clear, is an entity to be formed, but will be made up of entities related to Live Nation Worldwide Inc. and the Fenway Sports Group. And the entertainment venue will be leased and operated by Live Nation or an affiliate. You can go to the next slide, please. So I just want to walk through some timelines here just for full clarity and for everyone's expectations. Lower Hill Block E Entertainment Venue and Parking Garage. So here's the anticipated development timeline. So July of this year, in a couple of months, site preparation and excavation for the entirety of the Block E site. September 2023, the garage, the parking garage and the entertainment venue foundation work will commence. November 2023, survey and subdivision of Block E into Block E1 and E2, which is what I just referenced before. Subsequently, a subdivision of the site into two separate development parcels, Block E1 and Block E2. May of 2024, the parking garage precast construction, and then October 2024, parking garage completion. You can go to the next slide, please. As to the entertainment venue, December of 2023. So by the end of this year, completion of construction documents. February of 2024, first quarter next year, contractor selection. Spring of next year, March 2024, all entitlements. Permitting, the contractor's minority and women-owned business enterprise plan update, sustainability plan update. And then in May of 2024, we expect, and has been delivered to us, the promise of the venue vertical construction to commence. So in May of 2024, with completion and occupancy of the entertainment venue by November 2025, and then in 2026, the anticipation of the first ticketed event at the entertainment venue. You can go to the next slide, please. So, as I mentioned, the takedown and the option agreement did not contemplate this notion of a subdivision post takedown. In recognition of that, and in the consideration of that, a series of specific conditions are being required as part of this action to ensure that the Block E is developed as presented as both the garage and the entertainment venue in the manner and in the timeline that I just discussed. So these requirements include, and I'm just going to read these out, are not limited to the venue developers, the entertainment venue developers, submission of minority women business enterprise plans, sustainability plans, and economic impact, and workforce plans and data to the URA in a manner acceptable to the URA. Provisions of a minority women business enterprise plan by the redeveloper, in accordance with Exhibit P of the option agreement, which I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, for the Block E parking garage. The venue developer must submit revised plans to the URA prior to submission to the city's planning commission, should there be any. And just a point on this, just to kind of echo at the beginning of this, I think for it's important to point out, as been presented, is as the plan contemplates the incubator spaces on Wiley Avenue, as is currently contemplated, that any change to that, in addition to any other sort of substantive changes to the plan, would have to be submitted both to the URA prior to any submission to the city's planning commission. There was reference made to the parking tax diversion. The parking tax diversion increment, which, just to remind, is a diversion of the future parking taxes that are being reinvested into the site. Increment being held by the URAs, the trustee of the URA, until provision of evidence acceptable to the URA, a financial closing on the Block E entertainment venue. So just to kind of put in simple terms, the parking tax diversion, which is money that is to be put toward the parking garage and to the parking garage developer, will be held by the URA, and held the URA's trustee will be instructed to hold the parking tax diversion increment until there is a financial closing on construction on the Block E entertainment venue, which is an important point to point out. As Marimba pointed out, and I want to speak to this, the LERTA. So redeveloper using commercially reasonable efforts to monetize the 50% of the Block E Lower Hill Local Economic Revitalization Tax Assistance, otherwise known as LERTA, owner payment to the benefit, which is the offsite benefit, to the benefit of the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund at a future date. When I read the resolution, there's a bit more detail there, but essentially we've put in place mechanisms and specific triggers that will be held to as to the monetization, future monetization of the offsite LERTA benefit, as well as commitments to annual payments, even before a monetization event should occur. The execution of a venue ticket surcharge. I did, just to reiterate, I did hear in the public comment, folks refer to a parking surcharge. What we're talking about is a ticket surcharge as it relates to tickets sold at the entertainment venue. So the execution of a entertainment venue ticket surcharge agreement between PAR, Of course, the redeveloper, Live Nation, the Sports and Exhibition Authority, and of course, the URA, providing for a $2 surcharge on the sale of every public ticket for the first 10 years in a form acceptable to the URA. Again, when I read the resolutions and the specific language in there, this will begin immediately as to the first public ticketed event at the entertainment venue, which is to be in, if you go back to our timeline, but please don't do that. I was controlling the slides in 2026. You can go to the next slide. So reference was made to an additional commitments that were made per the October 2019 term sheet, which I previously described as closing conditions to the benefit to the public as it specifically relates to a Block E, the parking garage and the music venue development. And I just want to kind of add to that. I know that Marimba in the public comment made reference to these. I want to add a bit to those. So I just mentioned the surcharge. The Live Nation will create a $2 ticket per surcharge, which I just mentioned, for 10 years, for the first 10 years, beginning with the first ticketed event. The proceeds to be deposited with the Greater Hill Development Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund 2 times per year and subject to audit, prepared by Live Nation's auditor and subject to review by the SEA and the URA. And that is to subsequently, at the first ticketed event, which again is January 2026. Coordination amongst as relates to the New Granada Theater. Live Nation commits to booking and promoting at least 25 events per year at New Granada Theater for 5 years, pursuant to acceptable booking agreement. The development team will make available up to 250 parking spaces to the New Granada Theater, for 5 years. A donation will be made to as relates to the New Granada Theater, and a donation to join New Granada Theater in terms of supporting fundraising. Commitment reference was made to the public safety facility on Parcel E, a facility commitment to invest $1.2 million towards the creation and implementation of the public safety facility. Fundraising commitments as it relates to the Ammon Recreation Center of up to $900,000 at a financial closing, and the remaining, as it was mentioned, $400,000 at financial closing, and then the remaining in installments over 24 months after the financial closing, and to the benefit of the Ammon Recreation Center. I've talked about this. I'll mention it again. Development the commitments as to the annual offsite LERTA payments to the Greater Hill Development Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund, beginning at project completion and tax assessment. I will pause here because in the resolution it's very specific, and I'll read it for everyone's interest as to some of the mechanisms that are proposed to be put in place as to the LERTA payments. Mention was made to the curtain call project. The curtain call project will allow for joint PAR and Hill CDC community meetings related to the curtain call and its location. Evidence of financing forthcoming and will be provided when a takedown notice for that project is submitted for preliminary approval. And then finally, partner for work. So the development team and Live Nation working with the community and the Hill District oriented training programs through the First Source Center, as was just described as a specifically successful event just in the last 24 hours or so, and partner for work, focusing on the training and hiring of employees and consistent with the CSIP goals for the service, hospitality, and technical trade jobs at the entertainment venue and at the parking garage. Stop there. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so for the public benefit, I think it's important there's a lot of resolutions here. To help, I think, clear what's actually being asked for authorization and consideration here by the board, there are essentially 4 resolutions. The first 3 resolutions carry the same exact sort of subconditions, so I'll only read those once, but what I'd like to do is read the first 3 resolutions and then the conditions that flow with each of the resolutions. So the first resolution is the approval of the Block E conceptual development plan. Resolution 2 is approval of parking partners, Roman numeral XX, large 3 I's, parking partners 23 Block E LLC as the Block E redeveloper. And then resolution 3 is approval of the takedown of Block E and all of the documents necessary to effectuate the takedown. In other words, the disposition contract related to Block E. I'll pause there, and I'm going to read these 5 conditions because they flow with each of those 3 resolutions that I just read. So 1, receipt of an updated minority and women-owned business enterprise the MWB plan acceptable to URA and SEA staff as soon as practicable after MWB commitments for work on the Block E parking garage are available. 2, PAR and/or Parking Partners 23 Block E LLC shall cause Live Nation Worldwide Inc. and Fenway Sports Groups or the developer of Block E music entertainment venue, the venue developer, to fully comply with MWBE sustainability, economic impact, and workforce development reporting and compliance measures for the Block E music entertainment venue as described in the option agreement. 3, if the approved conceptual development plan for the Block E music entertainment venue is modified, PAR and/or Parking Partners 23 Block E LLC shall cause the venue developer to submit the revised drawing plans, as I mentioned before, to the authority and SEA for review prior to submission to the City of Pittsburgh Planning Commission. 4, PAR shall use or shall cause Parking Partners 23 Block E LLC or related entity or the entity leasing and operating the Block E music entertainment venue to use commercially reasonable efforts to re-engage with financial institutions to monetize 50% of the Block E Lower Hill LRTA owner payment for the benefit of the Greater Hill neighborhood Greater Hill District, Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund at the earlier of 36 months from the parking garage financial closing, or when commercial lender rates fall below 5%. And just this is an important point, I think, to make on this, with an interest rate and assessment methodology acceptable to the URA authority and SEA staff. And finally, we've talked about this, but execution of a ticket surcharge agreement and a form acceptable to the authority and SEA staff by and between the authority, SEA, PAR, Parking Partners 23 Block E LLC, and Live Nation Worldwide Inc., or related entity, which provides, as we've talked about, a $2 surcharge on every sale of public ticket for the first 10 years, beginning with first ticketed event of the operation of the Block E music entertainment venue to the GHDNRF. And then there's a 4th resolution, which does not carry these 5 conditions necessarily. You can flip to that slide, please. Thank you. 2, we talked about that. I read that. Go to the next slide. 3, I read that, the same conditions. The 4th resolution, and this, we've talked about this in the presentation. The authority will withhold the parking tax diversion funding agreement to be entered into by the authority and Parking Partners 23 Block E LLC until the provision of evidence acceptable to the authority of financial closing of the Block E music entertainment venue.
Thank you, Tom. Let me just interrupt.
Thank you.
Second. It's important for us to note that the parking project will receive 75% of incremental parking taxes generated on site. The 25% generated on site will be directed into a Greater Hill housing fund for the benefit of the Greater Hill neighborhood. And that would not be held back.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
And that's all I have. But first, I just want to just a couple of quick things, and I'm sure there's discussion. A couple of notes. The developer team's in the audience and can certainly answer any questions. I just want to, for the public record and for the board, a big thank you. That we have a real set of professionals who are diligent in their work on these this is a very complicated project. Hannah, Julia, James, David, and a host of others have done just person's work to get us to this point. And I just want to personally thank them. And again, for public record, in memoriam forever, unbelievable work. And with that, I will stop talking and I will hand it over to our chair. And I'm sure there's lots to talk about. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Link. There was a lot covered, a lot in the public comment as well. So I will open it up to my fellow board members for questions and comments, as well as any additional context folks want to provide for the discussion.
So I'll chime in, Chair, if that's okay. That was a lot, but what I will try to boil it down to is that was a lot to basically say that the commitments that were identified in the 2019 term sheet are indeed being realized, right? That the promises that were being made around the investment into the Greater Hill District are indeed taking place, and which is why we're able to vote on this today. What's also important to note is that this allows for the larger theme of the Greater Hill should directly benefit from what is going to happen on the Lower Hill District site. That what happens on the Lower Hill District should help feed the redevelopment and investment into the Middle and Upper Hill. And all these conditions allow for that to take place, whether it's Live Nation working to not only promote and not only book acts at the Live Nation venue, but also booking acts at the New Granada, whether it's this development helping spur, I believe it's 900,000 that's now on the table for the redevelopment of Ammons, and everything related to it, even the parking tax diversion that the director just mentioned, that historically has always been 100% tax break for the developer. In this scenario, 25% goes into a fund to be utilized to support housing in the Greater Hill District. So we are indeed capturing and doing what we said we were going to do. With that, I do want to thank the URA staff. I know this has been hard and tough on many of you. So I want to thank you for your due diligence. I want to thank you for the time and efforts that you have put into this. I also want to thank members of the Executive Management Committee for their advocacy and for their continual push to do what we said we were going to do and realize these investments. I do want to thank the Hill CDC for their advocacy on behalf of the community, and even over these last few weeks, their continual pushing of elected officials to ensure that we were indeed delivering. And then I just want to lastly thank the Gainey administration, and even more specifically Cal, Jake Pollock, Jake Wheatley, because you all have also been on the phone going back and forth often 10, 15, 20 times a day, ensuring that we had all the appropriate language in place to indeed realize these commitments. I just want to thank all of you all's time and efforts to get us to where we are today. And then lastly, there were a number of questions that were in the chat regarding ARPA funding. And I know it's slightly separate, but it's also related. And a number of residents wanted to know, were there ARPA dollars being directed to the Hill District? The short answer is yes. As in the easy example, we're using ARPA to fill funding gaps on the Robert E. Williams project, community center, that were caused due to escalating causes by COVID, construction costs and the like. So we're using ARPA dollars for that. I know the URA is currently reviewing, I believe it's about 14 or 15 applications that are going to be utilizing ARPA dollars to support both commercial and residential development in and around Center and Heron Avenue. So the short answer is yes, there are indeed dollars, ARPA dollars that are being utilized to help support development within the Hill District community. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Councilman. I think that was pretty comprehensive. Director Williamson.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo some and expand on some of the councilman's comments, but begin by noting his own leadership. We wouldn't be where we are today without the leadership of Councilman Lavelle either, who for years has pushed this process forward and pushed it to ensure that the development of the Lower Hill benefits the entire Greater Hill. And that process doesn't stop just because we get a commitment one time, as you can see with this particular takedown. There's been incredible progress made even over the last 2 months. And as the councilman said, ensuring that we are realizing, like making real the commitments that were embedded in the 2019 term sheet, but also expanding on some of them. The commitment on jobs to ensure that not only will there be efforts made, which we have to continue to monitor and continue to improve on ensuring equitable access to the construction jobs, but also end-use jobs. This development of great end-use jobs that are high quality and accessible to Hill District residents. I think it's also important to note that the $2 per event surcharge is another new commitment, one by the community just over the course of the past few months. And finally, while it's not part of this set of commitments around this particular takedown, it's I think happened just between the last briefing and today that the Penguins reached an agreement with Bethel AME to ensure that the Bethlehem AME has restorative justice rights to land and development rights to land that was taken from them decades ago during urban renewal. So all of that lays out a context in which really important progress has been made to realize these commitments, to expand on them, to ensure that this development can continue to be, as equitable as we can possibly make it, and truly benefit the entire Hill District. So, Councilman listed off a long list of folks who deserve our thanks and deserve a lot of credit for this, but let's not leave him off that list as well.
Here.
Thank you. I wanted to, as everyone said, thank you to staff, to folks, leadership who've poured several hours into making this happen, to residents who have gone to dozens, if not more, community meetings to voice their opinions and concerns about what happens next in this critical development. I wanted to elevate and maybe expand upon a question in the Q&A about clearly stating conditions of approval to ensure that those on the call and those who will be listening to this later on are clear about what we can expect if we should move forward and approve this takedown. I think most critical to me are really the projects that everyday residents and everyday Hill District residents will benefit from, that being our community rec center, the First Source Center. I want to ensure that we have a sense of clarity on when we should expect these projects to be realized, and a renewed sense of commitment from our developer partners to know that these are important and transformative projects. They're not just sprinkles on the cake, but these are things that are critically important to everyday residents and make a difference in people's lives. So if we could have some clarity on the conditions of approval for myself and for viewers, I would appreciate it.
Sure, I can jump in there. We will maintain a list of conditions, and Tom read from those in the previous slide. If someone could move to the previous slide, related to the category of, is the one before that, I guess. That's the community benefits slide.
There you go. It's up. Yeah, back another one, then another one.
Yeah, we'll maintain a closing condition list, and that will be memorialized in the disposition agreement.
I mean, to the question in the chat, and Director Powell's, before we take action, I think it probably makes sense for us to go through, what's spelled out on the subsequent slides in terms of the resolutions themselves. And then I think there's the conditions of closing where, we're going to look for these things to be memorialized prior to or at the financial closings to show satisfaction in the term sheet. I know Chief Link read them, and topically they go over this, but it'll probably be good that in addition to kind of going through those before we take the vote to verbalize those additional conditions again, if we're able to. So is that what you were looking for?
Yeah. Again, I think that these pieces are critically important to the project, and I know that there's a lot of moving pieces here, but having those commitments memorialized somewhere is important to me and clearly important to community members. So.
Yeah, we can, sure. I mean, I'll do my, please, I'll ask everyone to help me, but yeah, let's go back through. If you go to the next slide, please. So there are three separate resolutions here. Well, there's four actually, and three that sort of carry these same five sort of further conditions. And so, it's approval of the Block E plan, which we've talked, which is essentially, the parking garage and the entertainment venue as was just, as was at the beginning, right? So this is what's been approved. Approval of the developer of Parking Partners 23 Block LLC as the developer, which is the group that was described at the beginning, and then the takedown. And so, it's funny when I'll be honest with you, when I hear takedown, I have to think for a second. So when we say takedown, what we're saying is that the developer they have site control to develop this site. Right now, they can move forward to get full entitlements, get to their financial closings, and they will start building, right? And to the points earlier, this is the public action to allow for that to move forward. So just to kind of in simplest terms, that's essentially what we're allowing to happen for. We use the term disposition contract. A disposition contract is essentially a contract between the authority and developers that outlines all conditions as to the development of the site. So it speaks to the development plan, which is described here. It speaks to all of these conditions. It speaks to the all those things necessary that have been presented to the URA, presented to the public, as to the development of the site this site. So that so one of the actions here is that takedown and the necessary documents, which is that agreement between the authority and the developer as to this development. And then resolution 4 doesn't carry these same 5 subconditions, but it's the parking tax funding agreement resolution. So to the question of what we can expect, what's been presented and what we can expect is the timeline I showed before. So we should expect the construction and the delivery of both the garage and the entertainment venue to commence and be delivered in the timeline that was presented. There are specific, there are a variety of conditions that the authority requires and tracks, and our professional staff ensures that these things are available and approved to allow for to ensure that the disposition contract and the developer is in fact delivering exactly what they said they would do and with the conditions that they've promised, right? And that includes, so one on this is the minority and women business enterprise plan. That includes number 2, to compliance with the plan, with also our sustainability plan, economic impact, and other workforce development reporting and compliance measures. So this will get memorialized in this contract that will be enforceable as to as between the developer and as to the URA. 4 on this, of course, then or 3 and 4, excuse me, is 3 is as to the plans, right? So we've been presented with a plan. And that we're asking, the board is considering the acceptance of this conceptual comprehensive development plan. If there are any changes to that, and I think probably most, maybe not most importantly, I shouldn't say that. Perhaps there's some design changes, whatever, but some specifically as to the program, as to the location of specific uses of sites. So as an example, the business incubator, which I know it's been talked about and presented to us, and it's important that it faces Wiley Avenue. That's what's presented here. The disposition contract will say that's what you're doing. If that changes, we need to know about it, and we need to know about it ahead of any submission to to the Planning Commission. Excuse me. Again, memorialized as a condition to this resolution are the 2 the LRTA payment benefit that we talked about. So the commitment to make reasonable efforts to engage with monetization of Part 2, as well as at such time as rates acceptable to the URA come down to 5%, and then the $2 surcharge ticket agreement, which become memorialized elements of these actions. So those are all 5 of those run with the approval of the plan, approval of the developer, and the takedown, which again is this real sort of turnover of the site for development to the development. Resolution 4, of course, is what we talked about, which is it's a condition as to the parking tax diversion funding being held as a condition of ensuring that financial closing happens on the construction of the entertainment venue. So what you can expect is that there are contractual obligations that URA and SEA, to be clear, staff, they have the SEA had their board meeting this morning on this. Will be tracking and ensuring are complied with as per these resolutions and necessary agreements, and that construction will happen. And that's the other thing to keep in mind. So that's mine. I don't know if Cecilia, you came off mute if you want to add to that, but that might be helpful.
So I think it makes sense for me to read the closing conditions for the record. Unless any chairman, is that okay with you? Okay.
Yes, please do that. I think that'll
Okay.
provide clarity.
All right,
Yeah.
Tom, you summarized them, but I'm going to read the closing conditions for the record. Okay. The following closing conditions will be memorialized by PAR and BPG prior to or at financial closing in full satisfaction of the October 2019 term sheet commitments related to the Parcel E garage and music venue development. First, Live Nation creates $2 per ticket surcharge for the new music venue for first 10 years, beginning with the first ticketed event. Proceeds to be deposited with the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund 2 times per year and subject to audit prepared by Live Nation's auditor and subject to review by SEA and URA, provided that SEA and URA shall not be responsible for any audit costs. Second, New Granada Theater Coordination, and there are 3 sub-bullets related to this. First, Live Nation commits to booking and promoting at least 25 events per year at New Granada Theater for the first 5 years of operation, pursuant to a mutually acceptable booking agreement. Second sub-bullet, development team makes available up to 250 parking spaces to New Granada Theater events for the first 5 years of operation at no cost on non-PPG Paints Arena event days. Third sub-bullet, Penguins Foundation donates $100,000 to Hill CDC to support New Granada Theater, and Penguins agree to join the New Granada Theater fundraising committee. Third main bullet, development team commitment to the Parcel E public safety facility is $1.2 million. Next, development team donates or raises up to $900,000 in initial matching funds to the city's capital budget, $400,000 at financial closing, and the remaining in equal $250,000 installments at 12 and 24 months after financial closing to benefit the rehabilitation of Ammon Rec Center in the Hill District, consistent with a mutually agreeable definitive rehabilitation plan prepared by city DPW and community input. Next commitment. Development team commits to making annual offsite LRTA payments to the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund beginning at project completion and tax assessment and evaluating offsite LRTA monetization on commercially reasonable terms at earlier of 36 months from financial closing or when interest rates fall below 5%, with an interest rate and assessment methodology reasonably acceptable to the URA, with net proceeds benefiting the Greater Hill Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund. Next term, development team pauses the curtain call project FLDP to allow for joint PAR Hill CDC community meeting by August related to location. Evidence of financing will be provided when a takedown notice for the project is submitted for preliminary approval. And finally, development team and Live Nation will pursue a Hill District oriented training program through the First Source Center and Partners for Work, focusing on training and hiring employees, consistent with CSIP goals for the service, hospitality, and technical trade jobs at the new music venue and parking garage.
Thank you.
That was really helpful. Can you go back to the resolutions slide? Yeah, okay. So there are a handful of those closing conditions that involve essentially an entity other than the URA, right? Like requiring the developer to reach conditions with New Granada, or to provide funding to the city for public safety facility and for Ammon. Or the curtain call condition is, requiring the developer to do something with an entity other than the URA. And those ones are not included in the actual board resolutions. So I'm wondering if it makes sense, as long as there's no legal reason not to do this, to amend the resolutions to incorporate the conditions that Sushila just read out into our formal resolutions. Because there's at least like 4 of them that are, that we've all agreed upon are going to happen prior to closing, but they're not actually in our resolution. Is there any legal reason why we couldn't do that?
Hi, Sam, this is Hannah. Legally, we can add conditions into our disposition contract. However, this is not land owned by the URA, as you know. It is land owned by the SEA. The conditions that are missing from our list of conditions here in this resolution were not presented to the SEA board and were not approved. today, so we would not be in alignment with the SEA. We could add them and speak to the SEA about getting them into their disposition contract. That'll take some additional negotiations post-board meeting.
I second what Sam, I think is his question here. While if we do adopt, we would be out of alignment with the SEA. I do think it can be our responsibility on the back end to encourage the SEA as much as possible to mirror our resolutions. But I do think it is important for us to have clearly stated within our resolutions here and now our community benefits agreements that were so beautifully and lengthily stated by Sushila earlier.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I get that, but obviously an enormous amount of work has gone into reaching those agreements, and there's clearly a commitment on all sides to ensure that those conditions are met prior to closing. It feels like it's I don't know. I feel obligated to include them in our actual legal resolution to make sure that they have the full weight that they deserve. So
I would agree with that. Yeah,
I would make a motion to amend the resolution to incorporate by reference the complete list of closing conditions that Executive Director Nimani Sanger just read into the record.
Second.
Okay. So currently now we're just voting on amending the resolution just for clarity to the public and the record.
May I ask a clarifying question, Kyle?
Yeah, of course.
We have these conditions placed on 3 of the resolutions: approval of the takedown of Block E, approval of the redeveloper, and approval of the conceptual redevelopment plan. Excuse me, conceptual development plan. Are we revising the conditions for all 3 of those so that they're consistent?
Yes, that's how I intended my motion.
Great, thank you.
Okay. All those in favor of amending the resolution as described by Director Williamson?
Aye.
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 Any opposed or abstentions? Great. The motion carries. The resolutions, all 3, have been amended as described. I see that Rhea Thomas from the SEA is with us now too. So I don't know, Rhea, if you have any clarifying or additional from the SEA board meeting this morning for those that weren't there, how they entertained these conditions.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, this is Rhea Thomas. I am the in-house counsel at the SEA. Our board meeting was earlier this morning, and how it was handled, we had the same 5 conditions that are currently, as I'm seeing currently up on the screen, to our resolution for final approval of takedown, final approval of the proposed redeveloper, and final approval of the conceptual development plan. We daylighted for our board the conditions that have been agreed to that were termed as community benefits between all parties that have previously been mentioned, the city, participation by the SEA and URA. Those were not included in our conditions in that they were being memorialized in other formats. As the option agreement is interpreted by us, there are things in which we can control, that being things that are required for a takedown, such as an MBE plan, such as sustainability, workforce, et cetera. And then by the LRTA declaration, the LRTA. There are things that are outside of our control that we, of course, would like to see come to fruition, such as coordination with New Granada, such as the rehabilitation of Ammon, et cetera. However, there was not a role for us in the implementation of those benefits coming to fruition. And as such, we did not include them as conditions of our resolution. However, as I mentioned, they were daylighted for our board as community benefits that have been agreed to by the development team and parties, with memorialization forthcoming by or prior to the financial closing of the parcel. And that's how it was handled by our board.
That's extremely helpful background. I appreciate that. And I understand that sort of as a technical and legal matter to be true. I still personally am more comfortable with the approach we would take with the amended resolution. I mean, if all of the parties in good faith have agreed that this whole set of conditions will be met prior to closing, presumably everyone means that. And so if that is true, then we should do everything in our power. We frankly owe it to the public to do everything in our power to ensure that actually happens. And I don't see how we can say to the public all this stuff is going to happen, but then have not actually include it in our in the most powerful way possible in our closing conditions.
Yeah, I would agree, Sam, with that statement. I think it's why we amended ours just now, in order to include them with that. For consistency's sake, I think it would be, we can have that conversation with the SEA in terms of what we need to do with them, for consistencies and the enforceability if there's one of us versus the other. But I think the fact that we have them in ours obviously helps to ensure that these things are going to move forward. So.
Yes, so sorry in advance that probably creates some additional work for staff, but I suppose the development team simply just reaches all of those conditions well in advance of closing, and it just becomes a non-issue.
Yeah. Councilman, you came off mute. I didn't know if you had anything on this.
No, I agree with your Sam.
Okay. We've covered even more now. I don't know if there's additional questions or comments. Go ahead, Councilman. Sorry.
I'll make one last comment. And this is really directed for the development team. Moving forward, it'll be extremely beneficial for all parties if very early in the process, these developments are submitted and gone through the DRP process. And I will certainly do all I can to ensure that happens. That's it.
Thank you, Councilman. I think from the discussion, from the interest and everyone's familiarity with the importance of the site, as we talk about any development on the 28 acres, there's a tremendous amount of work involved from a number of parties, folks on our team, the development team, and certainly the community. So I want to thank them for continuing to push us to do better and make sure that we are sort of being as equitable in our approach as possible. We know we can always get better. I think the term sheet that was agreed to, and I thank everyone who was on this board then for their leadership at the time, for laying that out, and the work that we've done recently to lay out terms to make good on what was agreed to over the last couple of weeks. Councilman, thank you for the words earlier, and certainly your leadership over these past few days, as well as our staff, and again the community for that. I know there's a lot of folks who have done work because it's their neighborhood and their community and they care about it, and that often goes unnoticed and uncompensated. So, thank you for doing that. And certainly, I know the CDC in particular has pushed us on this $2 surcharge, and the development team, did meet that commitment, even though it wasn't in the term sheet. So I thank them for acknowledging that, as well as moving forward on many of these important initiatives, and for sticking to the project. So with that, if there are no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion for approval on the amended motion as described.
I just
earlier.
wanted to quickly
Go
add,
ahead.
thank you so much, Chairman, for noting the Hill District community groups and the advocates. You hold us accountable. I appreciate you doing that. I want to thank the board, mayor's office, and the councilman for your leadership on this. And also, I want to thank BPG, PAR, and FSG for your continued engagement and your investment in our city. 500 construction jobs, 250 permanent jobs. You're allowing for walkability. You're connecting the Hill District with downtown. That's important. It needs to happen. So thank you so much.
Well said. That's a great segue to a motion to approve the 3 resolutions as amended and the 4th as originally proposed.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Then the motion carries. Motions carry, pardon me. Thank you, everyone. Moving on in the agenda now. Lastly, we have our disclosures agenda. If any questions or comments from the board on the disclosures agenda? Entertain a motion to approve in its entirety.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? And the motion carries. Motion to adjourn our May regular board meeting.
And the longest one we've had in a while. So move.
It was we are adjourned. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the public and everyone who came and gave comment today. Appreciate your engagement on this, and look forward to seeing everyone next month. Thank you.